are. What? It's a podcast. Okay, here we go. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Hey, everybody. I'm great. I'm Matt Maher.
Should I start calling you Sugar? Because that's like I've noticed it's your tagline, and it's so like not me to say that, but I think just now I'm gonna force it into the episode.
As long as your
Sugar.
wife doesn't mind, you can call me Sugar all you want. I don't know. My boyfriend might not like that. No, he won't care.
My wife probably wouldn't like that.
No, he's used to it. Everybody calls me Sugar, so he totally 100% is used to it. First of all, we're doing a Skype episode. This is new. So for those of you listening, if you want to see how handsome Chris is, you can go to my YouTube page, and I'll be posting the show there as well. And Chris, it's Seitzer, right? Say your last name. Am I going to mess it up?
Cider.
Okay,
Cider.
okay.
Apple cider.
I want to put a Z in it. Every time I spell it, I fuck it up.
It's cool with a Z too, but.
Oh yeah, my show's different than your show. You can say fuck. You can say whatever you want, Chris. So, okay. Chris is. I just was on Chris's show that aired this week, and so I turned off my phone. But so we're filming this episode on November 28th, just after Thanksgiving. So the episode aired last week. You can go to his website, exboyfriendrecovery.com, and that's the podcast is called The Ex-Boyfriend Recovery. And normally I don't jump in, like I talk about how we know each other and all that kind of stuff, but first, I'm serious, and I mean this with all the love in my heart, as someone who's a therapist, who I've done couples therapy. Couples therapy is the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, it broke me many a time. So I want to say, like, how in the fuck did you decide that you want to like jump into this realm? And I love it, of like helping people like either get over or get through their breakup with their ex-boyfriend. Like, you're like the handsome best friend to so many, like thousands of women across the world. Like, what inspired you to do this?
Well, it's an interesting question, and really it's there's two separate forces that kind of led me into this. Now, I will be the first one to tell you that if you were to ask me 10 years ago, hey, you were going to be like a relationship consultant helping people through breakups, I'd be like, no, I'm not. You got the wrong guy. But here I am.
Here you are.
So initially it started, I have my background's originally in SEO, so search engine optimization. So I was really interested in websites, what makes them work, how you get traffic to them. And I must have started like 15, 20 different websites. All were complete failures. And I was always trying to have that one win. And I always kind of approached it not from a which is the wrong position to have, but not from a position of trying to help people, but from a position of, obviously, if you get traffic to a website, you'll make money. And so everything I tried in that way failed. And so at the same time, when I was like on this brink where I remember I was in college, I didn't really have any jobs lined up outside of college. I was going to graduate in a few semesters, and my dad, he was like, hey, you may have to quit like screwing around. You have to get something like lined up. And so right when that was happening, I also had a friend who was going through a breakup, and she found out like the day after the guy broke up with her that she was pregnant.
Oh,
and
whoa.
So that is like,
wow.
She was calling me, she was crying, and eventually she went online, started looking for advice, and couldn't find anything that wasn't just kind of scammy, trying to pitch you a product without maybe first building up some trust or actually giving you or trying to help you. And so I kind of got interested in it from a perspective of, well, I wonder what it actually takes to try to get an ex back, because that was what she wanted. And so I did all of this research. I started buying all these psychological books and just kind of immersed myself into it. And I said, well, here's what kind of the experts recommend. Here's my own knowledge of what makes men tick. Here's what I think you should do. And then 8 months later, she's back with him. And so it worked out good for her, obviously, but it gave me, the light bulb went off, and I was like, wait, if she's having this problem, I wonder how many other women out there are having the problem. And so I decided to just start creating a website with everything that I had learned. And I didn't approach it from even wanting to make money at all. I was just so happy that people would come to the website, they would comment, and they trusted my advice, and I was helping people get back together. And in fact, it was actually my dad who was like, hey, you need to start monetizing this website, because you're spending like 5-6 hours a day just answering people's comments and
Oh,
queries.
wow.
And I was so adamant against it, Matt. I swear to God, I was like, no, that I'm not going to sell out. I tried that before. It didn't work. But eventually I broke down when after 5 hours of answering people, I was like, I can't do this anymore for free. And so
No.
I wrote a book, and 5 years later, here I am. It's my full-time job. I put everything I have into it. High quality advice. I
Oh, and you
honestly,
give really great advice.
so yeah, that was kind of the two forces that merged to create Ex-Boyfriend Recovery. So on the one hand, the business side of it, and then on the other hand, the helping people side of it. And I feel like I'm not like a licensed therapist like you are,
Well, I'm not
but
licensed. I'm not licensed. Whoop,
well,
whoop,
I'm
whoop, but I'm not. Yeah.
well, I feel like a lot of I have met lots of therapists through interviews and talking to them on my own podcast, and I feel like a lot of their advice isn't anything revolutionary. It isn't anything that I hadn't heard before, and I think
agree.
a lot of my knowledge can match up against what they can bring. And I think it comes out when I write. Like every single article I write for my website is 5,000 words maybe, so it's like really in depth. I go overboard a little bit, and yeah, I mean that was a really long answer, but
No.
that's the
Sugar.
origin story of Chris Sider and Ex-Boyfriend Recovery.
Hey, I'm just watching you talk. It's just no. And so, okay, I have to ask the girlfriend or the friend that was pregnant that got back. Are they still together?
They actually got engaged, and then
Whoa!
it doesn't have the happy ending,
Oh.
unfortunately. He ended up cheating on her,
Oh.
and she moved on and is engaged to someone else now. But I'm not sure whose fault it is completely, because I didn't follow the situation past that. I kind of got focused on my own stuff. But I have definitely helped people get married. I did an interview with someone who used my products and stuff to get her ex back and get married. But again, I don't just help people get back with their exes. I help people try to move on from their exes as well. So
Well, and don't you think that in a way, oftentimes, it just energetic. I'm a hippie dippy Californian, so I know you're in Florida. So, but it's like when I want a commercial or I really want a audition for, I really like put all my energy. It just doesn't happen, and it's oftentimes where I kind of let go and like and it's almost like I'm not controlling it as much or suffocating it. And so I'm wondering, even like, how often have you worked with people that do you work with just women, or do you work with like gay men too,
both,
trying to get an ex-boyfriend?
both.
Do you work with men trying to get a
Men,
girlfriend back?
women, even gay, yeah.
Oh,
Everyone.
everybody. Okay.
I am open to everyone.
Everyone. Okay, so when somebody ever said, like, I don't want to get this person back, I'm just kind of want to work through this, but in their process of kind of getting over it, they ended up like getting back together? Because do you think they
Yeah.
got over it?
Yeah, one of the really interesting things that I did is maybe a year ago, I had enough success stories, hundreds, where I felt like, okay, I can actually start looking and gathering some data on what these people are doing. Because if you have one or two success stories, yippee, that's great for you, but maybe you can't find the correlations between what these people are actually doing. Because oftentimes when I give advice, they pick and choose the parts of the advice that they like the most and then implement it.
Yeah.
And so I had like hundreds of success stories. I took every single one and started looking at what people were doing. And one of the most shocking things I found was it was actually those people who had almost given up on their ex that got them back.
Oh, wow.
Because maybe they're putting that vibe out there. I haven't quite found some sort of psychological reason behind why it works, but maybe it's just the different feeling that you're putting off when you simply aren't trying to get your ex back. Like you said, you're not trying so hard and suffocating it.
I have to say, like, I've interviewed not a lot, some people, and
Don't sell yourself.
No. Yeah, but no, I more about talk to people, especially just in the field that I am in, because I'm always trying to balance that. I want to help people and I want to be entertaining, but at the core of it, I do really want to help people. And I met so many people that I feel like really do want to help people, but then they tell me they're like, oh, I help people change their lives and da-da-da. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And they're like, well, I have a 7-page ebook and like, which is cool. But then I like find it, and it's just like kind of regurgitated bullshit.
Yeah.
And that you can get from watching one episode of like Dr. Phil or like Steve Harvey, all that kind of bullshit. But I really love that. I feel like and this is a compliment because I've talked to a lot of fucking people about this that do this. Like, you actually give really good, concrete. You like walk the walk, man. Like, you really like. Because I don't know if you know this, but my goal is I want to have a talk show. That's why I started my podcast, because I was like, well, fuck it, I'll just
when you get your talk show, I better be guest number one.
You're gonna be my fucking Dr. Phil. You'll just be like.
No,
don't be doctor. But you'll be my handsome relationship expert. It'll be great. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah. I mean, to your point about the I can't even talk. Regurgitated bullshit out there. The 7-page ebooks. I have actually been suckered into buying those before, and it makes me so angry when you read this really great sales pitch and you're basically guaranteed results, and then you get this, and it's like, what the hell is this?
Yes.
So I remember I felt, even though my original, when I wrote my first product, I felt like I was like 100 pages long, but even years after, I felt ashamed of the product. I felt like I need to do better. And so I rewrote it, and now the book's longer than Harry Potter. So
that's all. What is the name of your book, by the way?
So I've got a couple. The original one is called X.
You said it like you you have kids. You're like, yeah, I got a couple. I'm like, you have a couple? That's amazing.
So the book, it's a self-published book, so I sell it only on my website, and I find it's a little bit easier to make sales that way as opposed to going to Amazon, where they can cut into the profits perhaps, but we can get into the business stuff later. So the book is for people who want to get their ex back, and I find also you have to kind of weave in some moving on principles in there, but it's called Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Pro. That is kind of the gist of the book. But I also have a book called The Texting Bible, which basically details the text that you should send to your ex and the principle.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you, because that's fucking smart, dude.
And the third one is relating to the no contact rule. So it's called the No Contact Rule book. So each one is very long in their own right, but obviously the massive behemoth is Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Pro, and that's kind of the general core strategy of what someone has to do to get their ex back, so on and so forth. But, I get embarrassed talking about them. I feel like I'm on your show. I should be promoting you, Matt.
No. People are
talk
sick.
Show.
People are sick of me. No, you're way more exciting. So what do you think, though, too? Like, I feel like that there is this I really love the show, because I'm a musical nerd, but I love the show. Do you watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
No, I haven't.
You should totally watch that show just from your perspective. It's a musical. I think she won the Emmy for it, the actress Rachel Bloom, and so I think
it sounds very, very familiar. Like I've seen it before, but maybe just like glanced over.
Fox, maybe, I don't know.
Will I be able to get it on Hulu?
I think you can, yeah. And so,
I'll check it.
But it's the whole thing is this girl moves to West Covina. And the whole series is about she's the crazy ex-girlfriend trying to get her boyfriend Josh back. So, but again, I think you would love it because it plays a lot with these ideas and these stereotypes of the crazy ex-girlfriend. And so the reason I bring that up is that how I feel like for a lot of, and I'm going to say women more than men, because there's not the crazy ex-boyfriend stigma as much that I think. You can put your
I'll
expertise.
elaborate for you, but yeah, finish your question.
Yeah, I feel like but there is this stigma for like women. I feel like, especially of that they are crazy or they're weak or they're somehow that they're fucked up, that they want to get back together with this guy. I don't know. That's just my perception. Do you experience that, and do you have to help sometimes women, especially, or just people, even overcome the stigma or the shame of being the ex and try to get them back?
Great question. So I'll tackle the who's crazier, because I have two websites. I have the ex-boyfriend recovery website and also ex-girlfriend recovery. So basically one targeted towards women trying to get their boyfriends back, and then one targeted towards men trying to get their girlfriends back. And in my experience, they are equal craziness levels.
That's what I agree. Yes,
they are equal. There's no more crazy gender than the other. I think love just doesn't discriminate like that. Now, as far as the stereotypes, the negative stereotype I face the most, and especially when I'm even telling people about, hey, come on my podcast, and I'm trying to. It always gets me because I remember I got on the phone once with a real stuffy psychologist type person who's been featured on CNN and all those big talk shows and everything. And I've had people on my podcast featured on those shows, but this person was very, very like clinical psychology type person. I was trying to explain to her what my podcast was and how, yes, we do try to help women and men get back with their exes, but at the same time, if they want it, we help them move on from their exes. And just the stereotype of why would you ever want to get back with your ex? Even this clinical psychologist is kind of got this attitude about it. Like not even willing or open to coming on the show.
Which is so weird because that's as a therapist, I often, unless it's gonna, really hurtful or abusive or something like that, that's what most people, 90% of people, what they do in life is they have something dramatic or they have conflict and they walk away instead of growing and working through it.
Yeah, and I think the growth part that you're talking about there is the most important thing, or really opportunity that people don't take when they're going through a breakup. People often let the breakup literally break them. They, it's literally like going through a withdrawal period, a drug withdrawal. And it's not easy for a lot of people. And there's really, if you look online, there's no support system. There's no safety net for people to turn to. They don't know the rules of, it's not taught in school. Like, how do you handle a breakup? Some people just naturally act crazy. They call their ex too much. There's that famous viral story of that woman who called her ex like 17,000 times, but of course it was proven to be fake. But just to give you an idea of how crazy women and men can be, they do this a lot. I've seen some of the craziest stories through my work on the websites of just things they are willing to do to try to get their ex back, or crazy behaviors that they'll exhibit. So I don't even know where I'm going with that, but people are crazy,
They can't, and you bring make a good point to me, or popped in my head, in that we're not taught how to handle a breakup. We're not. No. So literally I thought, is that why you do feel crazy? Because you feel helpless. You don't know what to do in that situation. I imagine if for some people that take it so traumatic, I've talked to people that either it's like people that experience especially a death for the first time, or like a home fire or something where kind of everything is lost. And they just, again, we don't sit down and say, hey, if your house burned down, how would you handle that? So that's so smart for you to say that. I never thought of it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's never taught. Like in high school, they teach you. I honestly, you don't want to get me started on the education system here, but really the only thing I took out of the high school was keyboarding. Seriously, like
oh my God,
how to type on the keyboard.
I got the keyboarding award. I'm right there with you.
That is the only thing I feel like I really legitimately took out of high school. My ability to write, I felt like I had that down by maybe 7th, 8th grade, but you're not taught like the important things that you need to be taught in life.
I was taught speech. For me, speech. That was really the only thing. Like learning how to get up and talk in front of people.
Yeah, public speaking is like the number one fear of everyone out there. It's like even somehow Trump's death, I think people are just so afraid to public speak. But I always
Yeah.
found it's kind of fun. And you
Yeah.
being an actor, it's kind of really important for you to be able to be
But
out there, I guess.
but my brother and I talk about. I mean, he's a plumbing contractor, but he's the boss of his business, so he has to go into meetings and all. And he has a nephew who's 18 or a son who's 18 and another son who's 14, and the younger one is like, I don't want to do public speaking as much, and they don't teach speech in school because, again, that's considered. That program has been cut in Oklahoma, so that way they can put an artificial turf for the football team, and
Well, football's in. Yeah, I grew up in Texas, so I'm a like huge Dallas Cowboys
so is my
fan.
boyfriend. We're a cowboy house. I
Yeah,
don't know what that means, but he told me I have to say that.
Oh man,
No,
I felt like a legitimate bond, but maybe your boyfriend needs to get in here and
he will. Where'd you grow up in Texas?
right outside of Houston. So I grew up before they had the Houston Texans. They had like the Houston Oilers, which moved to Tennessee,
Yeah.
and after that, it was just Dallas Cowboys throughout my entire childhood, and then I moved to Pennsylvania to be with my wife, and that is like Philadelphia Eagle country, and they are like fierce rivals, and so
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt I hated it there. I hated it there so.
Did you
was
play?
cold.
So you look pretty athletic. You played football in high school, right?
I actually played baseball, so baseball was my big thing. But I did as a kid play football, and I remember even I was good at it. So anytime the football kids would be playing, I would play with them, like just run through practices. And I've had like multiple coaches come up to me and say, "Hey, you should play," and I would always say, "Yeah." But I remember even as a kid, I was getting hurt, so I was a little bit smaller than the other kids. So to me, I was like, I think I could do better with baseball, and I did pretty good with baseball.
Yeah, I love baseball. That's what everybody plays, baseball or football. I don't remember if we talked about that before. Did we talk about you being from Texas? I forgot. Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know if that came up, but we did
No.
certainly talk about comic books and Buffy,
did.
which I am still going through. Buffy.
You're still going through Buffy. Yeah, because I went to school in North Texas. That's where I got my undergrad.
I think we did talk about
think we
that.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother went to school
Yeah,
there
yeah,
too.
we did. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
coming
it's coming back
now.
to me.
All coming back. Okay, so so I have to ask, like, have you had either the ex-girlfriend trying to get you back, or have you been the ex-boyfriend trying to get someone back? Have you experienced that in life?
I definitely have had.
You're happily married now, so
Happily married, but before I was married, probably 5 years before I was married, I definitely had an ex-girlfriend try to get me back. It didn't really happen so much. And as far as the relationship status, that relationship kind of broke me a little bit. And I took it more as a learning experience. Like instead of maybe focusing on what she did wrong, and there was certainly a lot of blame to be, I kind of focus more on like, what did I do wrong? How can I do better for the next relationship? And so I dated
Amen.
around for 5 years or so before I settled down with my wife. But yeah, it's all out of my system now.
I think that's such a good point, though, that you make. That again, that is, again, with just counseling couples and just with people in general, even just in relationship with a family relationship or friend relationship. There's if people are able to take their own responsibility for their involvement in what went wrong as well as what goes right, that would be immense. I'm telling you, that's such a huge first step for people as far as growth and like trying to have an understanding of one another. I'm telling you, you're better than a therapist. You're better at breakups than me, probably. I never really had any personally. I just had one when I was 20 from my boyfriend from Houston, and that was about it. So.
Well, I've definitely had breakups before, but I've never been broken up with. I've always been the breaker upper.
Oh,
So
me too.
yeah.
I've always been the breaker. Well, the one. No, but okay. So now though, getting not a little personal. You can talk about how much but how just doing what you've done. How has it affected your relationship with your wife now? How do you feel like it's made you? How's it made you be not talking about her because that's her life and she's not in a show, so I don't want to bring her in. But how does it make you just a better partner for someone from helping these people through this process?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like the ultimate roadmap of what not to do. And so
that's your next book.
Yeah, right. What not to. I will say though there are some negative aspects to it. Actually, when I was dating my wife, not married to her, so we dated for I want to say a year and a half or 2 years before we got married. It's so long ago I can't even remember.
You're like models, by the way. I saw your wedding pictures on your Facebook. It literally, you're both like fucking gorgeous, like Barbie and Ken wedding. I looked at it, I was like, oh fuck you, and logged off. Anyway, whatever. She's gorgeous.
Yeah. That's obviously one of the reasons I was drawn to her, but I think I became a little jaded towards relationships because every day, this is before I actually had an assistant and became too powerful to answer people directly now. But I used to, for years, have this superhero syndrome where I wanted to do everything by myself. And that included answering people's comments every single day. So I'd get like 100, 200 comments coming in every single day, all telling me about their depressing situation and how horrible life was and what they did. And this person cheated on this person. And so you become a little jaded and it's like sort of repetitive every single day. That's all you're seeing. And so my wife and I were in a long distance relationship for 6 months before I moved to be with her. And it can be really tough when you're reading all of these people, especially women. So I'd go on Ex-Boyfriend Recovery and answer the comments there, and you'd hear about these women cheating on their exes and their exes finding out about it and breaking up with them. And so there's a little bit of that projection where you start to worry, well, what is she up to? And so I definitely did, checking Facebook every 5 minutes to hopefully wouldn't see some sort of picture of her making out with some guy. And so there was a little bit of that to deal with. Obviously, when we moved together, it got a little bit better, but we definitely had some, I want to say jealousy issues more than anything. But ever since we've been married, it's been different. You know how people often say when you get married, there's no difference, but I have felt a difference in a good way. I feel a lot more trust. I feel she trusts me more. I feel I trust her more. It's just the level of commitment is so much greater. But yeah, I would definitely say the jaded aspect of it is a little tough, but I don't really answer as many people as I used to. I get to pick and choose the people I want to work with now. And I have an assistant who answers people on a daily basis. And every once in a while I'll pop in and give advice where I see maybe she should have added something here or there. But yeah, early on it was a little bit tough in that regard of being a little jaded and seeing all these negative things happen. But I imagine you earlier in the show you were mentioning how it kind of the couples counseling kind of breaks you.
Oh, it broke me at first. Yeah,
probably the same type of thing you're going through. Like you're seeing all these horrible things and it's tough to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very tough to watch. Well, speaking of picking and choosing your questions, you're not, we've got 3 for you today. And actually,
well, it's 3 for us, right? So I'm not going to be answering them all.
3 for us. 3 for us. But I think these are all your listeners because I got like an influx of questions. You're the first Dear Maddie show where I've been on somebody's show and I get a huge influx of questions.
Well, I think your website is just conducive to that. So I sent out an email to my email list, which is pretty large. And I think I put in there, like, if you want to ask him a question, go here. Yeah. So, it's my present to you. 5,000 different breakup questions.
Well,
have fun.
Have fun and go. Well, okay, so we've got 3 questions today, all from 3 ladies. So it's just an X type of show. So the first question, this is from, I want to say her name is Jania, Genea, Jania.
Let's go with that, Jania.
Yeah, Jania, age 39. And Jania says, Dear Maddie, I want my ex back so badly. He has a new girlfriend, but we Had sex and stayed the night together until Thanksgiving morning. Did that hurt my chances? He claims to still love and can't let me go. That's what, Jania, I love you. Learn how to use a period, sugar. I'm trying to read your sentence. Jesus, Jania.
She's going through a tough time, so she's just frantically typing.
She
probably
has
on
no
her
periods
phone.
in her. Okay, so I mean, I read this and I was like, I started being like, okay, she wants to get her ex back, and I'm like, he has a new girlfriend, and then I was like, oh, but he's sleeping with you, so
he's cheating on the new girlfriend with her.
Yes. So okay, let's do this.
Okay.
For this question, I'm gonna say what I think. And then, Chris, you have to be honest and be like, hey, that's right on. Or you have to be like, you're totally fucking off base, dude.
I will definitely even use I'll say you're totally
please
fucking
do, because I got no ego in this. School my ass. So, okay, so what you need. So this is my first thing. I'm like, to me, I think if he's cheating on his new girlfriend with you, what makes you think that he's going unless something changes in his life, what do you think is going to make him not cheat on you if he comes back to you? That's just kind of my first.
Amen.
Okay, good.
Amen.
Oh,
you
good.
are on the right track, brother.
Yay! Ding, 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 ding. You need to watch the video. I just jumped up and down like a game show, people. Yeah. So to me, just that from the get-go, to me, I want to say, Jania, like,
bit of a red flag.
Yeah,
bit of a red flag.
I just feel like that's a big like, let it go, because I just feel like this girl. Honestly, I think this guy is having like he's having the best fucking Thanksgiving ever, because honestly, for the lack of a better word, but this is probably how he's thinking. He's getting pussy wherever he wants right now. That's kind of what I think this guy is thinking. So that's kind of my initial impression on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I will tell you, in my independent studies, and I am not trying to be arrogant when I say this, but I have about 500,000 people come to my website every single month, and I see a lot of stuff. And I've done independent studies on what happens in this exact situation. This is not the first time I've encountered this. So here's what happens. So he is essentially setting you up to be the other woman, and that is where he wants you to be. You know, he, like you said, is going to get pussy wherever he wants, and he will try to extend that for as long as possible. And so he's probably he understands that, okay, if I'm going to keep this charade up, I have this new girlfriend getting sex from her. I have my old girlfriend getting sex from her. How can I keep getting sex from the both of them? Because clearly if he's serious about his current girlfriend, he would not cheat on her. So
yes, if he loved either one of them, then he would be with that person.
Right. So I think in Jania's email, she mentioned something about how he wants to be with me, right?
Yeah, she says, so we stay the night together Thanksgiving morning. Did that hurt my chances? He claims to still love me and can't let me go.
That's it. Okay, so he is look, I'm a big proponent of actions versus words. Yep. So words to me mean nothing when you are looking at an ex or a breakup. Always study the person's actions. So has this person actually, through an action, broken up with his new girlfriend? No, he has not. So he is essentially using these words as a hook to keep you in that position of friends with benefits. So he is going to keep this rate going as long as possible. I've been doing this a long time. Really, the smartest thing you can do if you want him back is to simply walk away, and you'll be amazed at what happens next. We'll just mic drop.
Mic drop. It was a mic. It wasn't a pencil. Don't say that. You just you were so cool, and then you just nerded it back. You're like, it's a pencil. Yeah. That amen to that. All right. Okay. Wow, you got to it. I love it. Okay, this is from Heather, age 26. And Heather says, Dear Maddie, why do men... First of all, sorry, I'll just read the question. She says, Dear Maddie, why do men get married if they don't want to settle down or stop cheating? I think Heather's had some rough experiences, bless her heart.
For real.
Like
Heather.
Bless her heart. She's just... And I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean, it seems like kind of what you were saying earlier in your experience. And I've got being jaded. She sounds really jaded because I don't think that's for all men. But I'm gonna let you go first on this one. So why do men get married if they don't want to settle down and stop cheating? So what do we say? So let's do a two-parter on this. Maybe let's actually answer Heather's question, and then actually maybe we can talk about kind of what we think might be behind why Heather's asking this. Maybe.
Okay. All right. So I'm thinking I have kind of an interesting perspective on this one because this isn't necessarily like a breakup question. This is more of a philosophical. Why do people do? So my perspective is he hasn't met someone worth committing to. Right. So if he really met someone worth committing to, he would not
to him.
cheat on this.
Somebody worth to him. Not this isn't about your self-worth, Heather. To him.
Right. To him. So if he is marrying someone, ideally you would think he would stop cheating. And what was the other? Cheating and what?
Cheating. Yeah. Why do you think men don't want to settle down or stop
settle
cheating?
Down? Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I think he just hasn't met the right person for him. And it's interesting. You can talk about commitment and what makes human beings commit to one another. And a lot of this has to do with the interdependence theory. So the interdependence theory is basically human beings, they're committing to each other on a cost and benefit scenario. They're trying to maximize the benefits, minimize the costs. Yep. And so there's three things you look at here. Satisfaction of the relationship, so how happy he is in the relationship. The alternatives, so is there anyone out there that he think is better than you? He thinks is better than you. Mm-hmm. And investment, how many resources has he invested into the relationship? So if you're looking, Heather, at those three things, where do you stack up? That's just my 2 cents.
No, I think, that reminds me of, so I've done a lot of like actor coaching and talking to people about branding and stuff like that. Cause a lot of people hate branding. I love it. But anyway, it's interesting to me because I think it's just the essence of kind of figuring out how you are and how you can reach people. But so I kind of base, like when I work with people, and I've talked about this on the show before, but I once was watching an Oprah Winfrey show where Kenny Rogers was talking about Dolly Parton. And Oprah asked, because they were doing a show about them and islands in the stream and all that shit. Mm-hmm. And Oprah asked him, she said, Kenny, why do you think Dolly Parton has such a mass appeal? Why people love her so much? And Kenny said, a Houston native, by the way, Kenny Rogers, he said, Oprah, I feel like that our journey in life, that our mission is that we have three selves. We have the person we really are, the person who people actually see us as, and then the person we want people to see us as. And he said, and I feel like our job in life is to get those three people to meld together to get as close as possible and be linked up. And that's when we're really kind of living in the flow of life. And when those three things are very separate and scattered is when we feel a lot of frantic or uneasy, or we're not able to find happiness in life. And the reason I bring that up for Heather, it's like, sweetie, I want to say, step out of yourself. Instead of looking at it from your perspective of what people are doing to you, look at the perspective, kind of what you were just saying, of how are people perceiving you? And because you might come out that, like, if you are feeling jaded and bitter about this, Heather, at 26, then maybe, like, are you a negative person? Are you negative in there? And I'm just not saying you are, Heather. I'm just kind of guessing because we don't have a lot to go on from the question. But just, are you this type of person in life? Are you negative about everything? Not even just men and cheating. Are you negative about happiness or optimism about career? Because that could be a huge reason why somebody doesn't want to be around you. I don't know your life, sugar. But anyway, I just think it's maybe that, look at those three parts of yourself. Do you know who you really are? What do people see you as? And what do you want people to see you as? Anyway.
Man, that's a great story. Seriously, I was really blown away by that.
It changed my life. I was in middle school. It changed my life. That
is so fascinating. I never thought of it that way.
To me, that's branding. That's all. And because I'm an actor and doing what we do, and I've done that. At a very young age, I really thought about, okay, I'm this person. And it was harder at the time because when I was in the closet, I knew I was like shitting glitter gay, but it was like, but it helped me though. It helped me really delve into the arts and figure out through the arts, through being an actor, through being like a funny mascot, at the football games, that I was able to be who I really was. That was the way I was able to show it. And that's what, and it linked up with the way people saw me as. So really, by the time I got, like at the end of high school, I had a pretty good sense of self, and I knew how people reacted to that sense of self and what was the area I could play in as far as getting people to like me and having safety. And then that's just really social media marketing to me on a larger scale, is you're trying to find the sweet spot of where you can be yourself, but also, like you said, look at what people are looking for and then try to negotiate where's the area I can play within that. So,
well, I think that's even a better answer than I could have ever come up with. But I do want to point out that I did offer some valuable advice. Just like,
oh yeah, you did.
Like I offered that much.
Oh,
you
please.
Came up with that much.
No, you didn't at all. Like I'm loving this. Of course, we need to go on the road. I'm telling you, road trip. Come on. A hot straight guy and funny gay guy just helping women that's a fucking show. I could sell that shit. All right. We'll talk later after that.
So you're right. Right. We'll nail down the dates we're going on tour.
Nail down. All right. So Heather, good luck in that. I mean, sweetie, I hope that maybe don't date too. If you're just feeling, that's another thing too. Did you find that like, some people feel like they need to be in a relationship or they need to be dating. And I just want to say,
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, go. I just feel like, why? Why are you doing this to yourself?
I think a lot of it also boils down to selection. So, and it's interesting that you make them put their ages when they submit the question to you, because even though I'm kind of stereotyping here, you can kind of learn a little bit about someone's emotional maturity.
That's why I do it. Yeah.
Where they are in life. So at 26, Heather really doesn't know who she is, so there's still some soul searching, so to speak, to find out who she is and what she wants. But yeah, it's really.
When I was 26, how old are you?
27.
Oh, you are?
Well, I'm saying, okay, all right. So you caught me.
No.
But I'm saying because I even have more maturing to do. Like, I don't know truly. So, the three things you said, I feel like I am in that stage of trying to line all of them up, So,
well, we always are. We always are. Sorry, we both didn't know when the other person was going to talk, and we both just looked at each other. It was like an awkward date, like, No, I was going to say, I'm shocked. I mean, you do look young. You look 27, but you don't act it. I actually thought you just were like in your mid-30s and you looked young, honestly, because you're very wise beyond your years.
No, I think I've always been kind of an old soul. Even maybe it's just, maybe it's a bit of the shyness in high school. I think I was really shy in high school to talk to people, and so as a result, I tried to find different ways to keep my brain active and learn different things, and so I've been able to apply a lot of those learnings throughout my life. So yeah, it kind of pays to be an outcast in high school sometimes.
Oh, yeah. For me, I had friends, but yeah, definitely. It's kind of sometimes it's your greatest weakness sometimes actually becomes your greatest strength. You don't even realize that. But Heather, good luck to you. Do something fun for yourself. You don't need a man. I mean, please, when I was 26, I didn't even have HPV when I was 26. Like, I had nothing. You know what I mean? I had nothing. I didn't know whatever. So, okay. All right. Caitlin, we're on to Caitlin. Caitlin is age 19. Caitlin says, Dear Maddie, how do you know when it's truly over between you and your ex? We keep on breaking up and getting back together, and I feel this time it's done for good. Where do you go from here when you're in this situation? It has been 4 years, and the past year hasn't been great. How do you make him want you like he did when you first got together again? This is a hard question, so I'm making you answer it first.
Well, it's a hard question too because there's like three questions in the question, So which one should we tackle first? You pick the question we tackle first, and I'll do the grunt work of trying to come up with something that sounds good and
Well,
like it would work.
okay. Well, I want to. What popped out of me in the first, because I remember my brother used to do this in high school with his girlfriend at the time, who he's not together with, thank God. But I see those people, and I'm usually, at least in my history of a breaker up, I'm pretty much, once I break up with somebody, I'm cool with being friends, but it's done. Yeah. So I never got it when you see people that break up and get back together and break up. That just that would drive me crazy. So why do you think? I mean, we don't know Caitlin's situation, but I'm sure you see that all the time. Like, what do you think is at the root of that? Why people do that?
The root of it. So, like I said, remember how I said, it's really interesting that you make them put their ages. So emotionally mature people are like you. It's a one and done type of thing. Remember, look at her age. She's still technically a teenager, 19 years old. So she's in this emotionally immature space where maybe a really bad argument isn't met with okay, let's just take some time apart and then regroup and talk later. It's met with a fuck you. We're breaking up, And so what I think's happening here is, imagine her boyfriend's around the same age, maybe even younger, from the on and off. I see it happen a lot with high schoolers, early college years, and also those relationships that are just met with a lot of fighting. That you get these two immature people who anything can set them off. Any little jealousy is taken the wrong way, and they simply just say, hey, I'm out of here. And then, of course, they come to the conclusion maybe 3 hours later, what did I do? I made the biggest mistake of my life. I need to get them back. And so this is where you get this endless spiral. And I think the interesting thing that you need to look at here is every single time that you get back with a person after a breakup, it almost like takes a little from your soul. Things aren't always the same as they were that first time. It's like watching a movie for the first time, a really good movie, right? It's the most phenomenal thing you've ever seen. But if you go watch the movie again the second time around, it's still really good, but it's not as good as the first time you saw it. So I think the same principle almost applies with the relationships. Every time you try again, it's not the same. It's lost a little bit of its soul. And I think for someone to get back with an ex and make it last and have a happy marriage and have the happy ending that I think everyone wants, you have to be emotionally mature and able to handle things and understand the breakup was the best thing that ever happened to you. It got you to work out some of your issues. Maybe you did some soul searching, found out who you were. But it seems to me that what was the girl's name? The 19-year-old, the on and off again?
Caitlin.
So it seems to me Caitlin is in this stage where she is not getting anything positive out of the relationship at all. She's just like a broken record, making the same mistakes over and over again. Maybe it's not her fault. Maybe her boyfriend is the one who's immature.
Yeah.
And she's a very mature woman who's trying to give it a shot, but he's just kind of a dick. What's your take?
No, I think I'm telling you that movie analogy is the best fucking thing I think I've heard in 2016, and we're almost at the end of it, Sugar. That was fucking gold right there. That you're so right though. I've never equated it but that's just so on point, and I think we all can relate to that. Where it's almost like for these people breaking up there's two things I think. A, are they just trying to get that feeling back that they're not going to get anymore?
Yeah, and they won't oftentimes get it back ever.
Never.
You have to look at it a little bit differently. I think if you're going to get back with an ex, you have to be sure that this is the person that you want a long-term relationship with. I'm not saying you got to marry the person. We don't want to put that much pressure on them, but it takes someone with a lot of discipline and a lot of emotional maturity to make it work because – like you're saying with the movie thing, it's never the same as it was the first time.
Yeah, you also brought up that you talked about when they break up with somebody, and then you said 3 hours later they go, oh my God, what did I do? Yeah. For me, I feel like in my experience of experienced some of it, but mainly seeing it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this fear of being alone, this fear of not being content just and happy of just being ourselves, because I was single for like 14 years before the relationship I'm in now, and we've been together for about 2 years, and we lived together, but I wholeheartedly know this relationship, I don't know, does it make me happier? I guess yes, but does it fulfill me in ways? Yes, but it wasn't as if it filled a hole in my life. And I think that's a lot of it when you said that, why people get back together. That was my brother in high school. He's still to this day, and he'll tell you that. Thank God he and his wife are great, but he can't handle being alone. He can't do it.
Yeah, I actually love what you just said, because me personally, I am the type of person that likes being alone sometimes. I think especially now that we have a 1-year-old where we didn't get any sleep and where the baby's relying on you to essentially live, and you have to be up 24 hours. It is the alone time. You have to cherish it. And there's nothing wrong with being alone. So you said you were single for 14 years. I haven't been single for 14 years, but I was for 4 or 5 years before I met my wife.
That's a great long time.
It's a long time, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. Not towards the end. I remember towards the end, I was like, okay, I think it's time I step out of the shell. I start dating again. No, I mean, obviously I went on dates throughout the 4 or 5 years, but like seriously looking for someone to potentially settle down with. I think there's nothing wrong with being alone whatsoever. And I think what you said is spot on. A lot of times people are so conditioned to be in a relationship. They've been in a relationship ever since they were 15.
She was 15. I didn't, when you said her age, that reminded me, she said 4 years ago. So yeah, they've been together since
15 years old, high school.
I mean, come on, Caitlin, bless your heart. That's so much.
Almost, it's interesting. I remember in high school, my relationships were emotionally immature. Any little fight was a breakup type situation. And it's like you're purposely trying to do that to manipulate the person into doing what you want. You're dangling a breakup in front of them to try to get them to act in a way that you want. It's a form of manipulation and control. It just so happens she's in this cycle now. So that was question number one. She's got like a zillion other questions in there too.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I was dating girls in high school, so I didn't know what the fuck I was doing either. They didn't.
Neither did anyone else.
So they keep on getting back to, and so I guess what she is asking. We talked about what's it like when you first got together. We answered that. So I guess our last question, and this is our last question of the show. So what a great question to kind of end on. How do you know when it's truly over? So how do you know, like, for your clients, these people, that are paying you to help them, but you got to tell them the truth and be like, have you had those clients that are still trying to do it? Like, have you ever had to tell them that it's over? Or do you think that's for that person to realize and recognize until they get it, it won't happen?
I think it just depends on the situation. Obviously you have like physical, emotional abuse. That's right away type thing. Yeah. But let's assume that's not happening. Let's assume you just have someone who just fails to accept reality for what it is. The guy is maybe getting married, and it's the day before he's due to get married, and she still thinks she has a chance. Well, that's someone who needs to clearly be told, hey, you ain't got a chance. It's time to move on.
Have you had that?
I have, actually.
Wow.
Not quite.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah, I have had that. Not from a paying client, but definitely from someone I've been communicating with through email a couple of years ago. That's definitely happened. The other type of thing that you said is, I am also a big believer in people are smarter than I give them credit for. The way I'm talking here, a lot of people do come to a conclusion on their own. Hey, I think it's time to move on. So oftentimes you just have to let them go through their process and help them out as much as you can. And it's a really beautiful merging of ideas when you're trying to get next back, because oftentimes the best way to get next back is to take the necessary steps to actually move on. Now, I'm not saying fake move on to where, hey, I'm going to act like I'm moving on, but inside I'm still being killed. No, you actually have to try to move on for this concept to work, but people who actually do that have a better chance of success than people who don't. People who, like to your point earlier, squeeze and try to get success out of it, and they try so hard, it doesn't necessarily work out that way. So oftentimes when you lead someone down that path, they come to conclusion on their own. So I am a big believer in letting people go through their own process, but there are those specific cases where you have to step in and say, hey, it's over. And even then, to the point of the woman who's, her ex is engaged, he's due to get married real soon, she still is trying to get him back, and I say, hey, look, it's time to move on. She still refuses to accept reality. So oftentimes, I'm not in this necessarily to coddle people. I'm in this to tell them exactly what to do to get the results that they want. And so sometimes it's just beyond my control to help someone, especially when they fail to realize that's kind of a no-go situation.
Yeah. That's hard, man. That is hard. Going back to what you see earlier, it's people, I think it's like, well, what we do, people come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, do you have like crazy stories about people doing like crazy stuff? But it's not funny when you're in it.
No, when we actually see it's a human being.
Yes, and you see their pain. It's actually really sad and really heartbreaking. So
it's funny to people outside, and I'll admit, I can look back.
Too, yeah.
I can look back on that story and kind of have a chuckle because, all in hindsight. But when you're actually in that situation and you maybe get an email from someone and they say that they're crying, or someone records a message for you to try to answer, which I used to do on my podcast, I still do, and they're literally in tears when you do a Skype session like this and you see it's not necessarily a funny thing. You don't like laugh and have a great jolly time. Christmas back there, but
all my decorations are back behind us.
Yeah.
Which shows you have like a whiteboard with your stuff written down and goals. My boyfriend tells me to do that all the time. I'm like, but it'll make my wall look not pretty. And see, if he sees this, he's gonna be like, I told you. Stop messing with the garbage.
It's not necessarily a cheap thing to do. It was pretty expensive, and the guys that came out had a hell of a time. That it's all glass back there, and it's like weighs so much. So I paid 2 people to do it, and I actually had to help them. That's how heavy it was.
Wow.
So
wow, that's.
But yeah, it's kind of the board of crazy ideas that haven't come to fruition.
It's inspiring for me to see that. Sugar. That's all of our questions.
Sweet. Did I make it through?
You did make it through.
Now we get to the fun part. Now
I'm not breaking up with you. We're keeping you. Yeah. Now we get to the all about you questions. So this is Chatty Matty questions. These are the
and I want to say before you get started here, you sent me the questions beforehand, and I literally didn't prepare, so I don't even know what's going to come out of my hand.
No, that's great. I purposely don't send. I usually send stuff only the night before. I had one guest who wanted it like 3 days in advance, and I just told her, I said, no, because I don't want this to be rehearsed, because then I'll get bored. And I'll get bored. So you're great. All right. So Chatty Matty number 1. What's your most memorable childhood smell?
Smell.
Can
I do memory? I have a funny story for the memory.
Sure.
Smell. I don't even earliest childhood. I'll try to give you, but probably honeysuckle. Honeysuckle.
Yeah.
Used to have honeysuckle in Texas where I grew up. We had like a whole line of trees that every time you walk by there, you get that smell. So that would probably be my earliest childhood smell. But the memory is a lot more interesting.
Sure.
Because I remember when I was a kid, really young, it's my first memory ever. I had a set of blocks, like Lego blocks, and so I was like obsessed with playing with these blocks, right? And I had them stacked and created this fortress that was just the most. I'm not even kidding, man. It was the most epic thing. Well, to a 2-year-old, it was the most epic thing that, like, I remember even having the hindsight at I don't even know, 2-3 years old, earliest childhood memory, that young, stepping back and kind of like admiring my work, like, I did a good job on this. Now,
Oh.
here's where the funny part comes into play. So the next day I had a surgery to, I don't know if it's like tubes in my ears or something. I had some weird ear thing. So I had to go to the hospital to get a surgery, and it was like a planned surgery, and I knew it was going to happen. My parents explained it to me, and they had to put like one of those sleeping gas to put me out. And I remember as the doctor put the mask on, I remember having this thought right before I was about to get knocked out, like, I hope my dad does not move those blocks when I wake up, because I worked so hard on that. So I get through the surgery, we go home like a couple days later, and guess what? That son of a bee moved my blocks, and to this day, not forgiven. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
That's childhood memory.
that was a really, because you said you were 2. That's really young to remember this.
I don't know if it's 2, but probably earliest one I can remember on record. So I'm just guesstimating 2 or 3 probably.
That's, oh, your dad still feels the guilt.
I was a sophisticated kid, man. I'm telling you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You know what? Your dad told you to make a business out of ex-boyfriend. So there's his payback.
Made it up to me.
All right. Chatty Matty number 2. What would be the name of your memoir?
Oh, God.
I know you email me. You're like, memoir?
That's the name. Oh, God. No, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty simple, so I'm going to have to go, I'm a simple person with simple pleasures.
Okay. I like that. Mic drop. Pencil drop. All right. Chatty Matty number 3. Best piece of advice you wished you'd taken earlier.
God, these are really hard. You almost have to. I should have prepared.
Well, no, I mean, what is that like, what is that thing that like now you often practice in your life now, but you're like, damn. Because, I mean, it puts us in not a no regrets thing, but I think that we all have things that are like, oh, man, if I would have known that when I was 17 or 18 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually have it. So there's this concept called the Holy Trinity. And it's not biblical or anything like that, so I won't get biblical on you. But so the Holy Trinity is essentially, if you look at your life and you can divide it up into 3 main aspects of your life, you divide it up into health, wealth, and relationships. And so the idea behind this is if you can find a way to maximize each part of your life, you're going to have a really successful life. So if you do things to improve your health, if you do things to improve your wealth, if you cultivate relationships, make new relationships with new people, you're going to live like a really, really fulfilled life. And that is something I wish that like a younger version of myself, I would go back and tell myself that, because I was practicing that until maybe 2 years ago or so. And I find it so difficult to perfectly balance each aspect of your life, because if you put too much time in one aspect, you don't put enough time in another aspect. And so it's a constant balancing act. And I find that I'm happiest when I feel that I've done a good job balancing each aspect. So that would probably be the piece of advice. I wish there was like a shorter answer I could give you other than the Holy Trinity.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I definitely feel like I'm working on the wealth. I'm working on it, getting there. Relationships, I'm pretty great at. Health, I'm terrible at. I'm okay eating, but I fucking hate working out. I never was an athlete or anything. So I just, it's good for me to hear this, because I'm literally set up, because I don't even know at a gym what to do. I have like a personal training session tomorrow morning just to show me how to do it. I got an iWatch thing to help me motivate, which is...
That's so badass. iWatch. That's so cool.
Well, it is. You know what? It has this whole thing that, I mean, a Fitbit does it too. But there's a little meter that I set how much I want to move for the day, and it's good. And so there's a little meter that basically is telling me, I was thinking today, I'm like, it's been a busy day at the day job. I've got up a lot. I've done a lot today. And I looked down on my meter, and it's barely moved at all. And I'm like, damn, no wonder I'm fat. So, this is, but no. So health, that you needed to say that answer to me right now, because it'll motivate me to get up even earlier tomorrow to go do that. So
yeah, it's interesting. I find let's see, my health, I feel, I always feel like I could improve every aspect, but I think health is okay. See, I played tennis earlier today for
I
like a
love
couple
tennis. I
hours.
love tennis.
Yeah, my
So,
dad was actually a tennis pro,
oh wow,
so
that's the one sport I love to play all the time. But you've got to find somebody to do it. But
I,
that's
I actually have a college kid that comes and plays, but he's really, really good. So we played 2 sets and we split it. He won the first one, I won the second
oh,
one, but
that's nice.
I was had a little bit of the turkey hangover, so to speak. So
Ah,
I felt really bad about my health the last 2 days, but I think today I did okay. Wealth wise is always I feel like you're always everyone, even the richest people in the world. I think I watched this interview once with J.K. Rowling, who's a billionaire.
mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling, she wrote Harry Potter. She's a billionaire. She is still motivated by the fact that she could go broke one day. And to me, that's like,
Was that an interview with Oprah? I think I saw that
yeah, I think it was Oprah.
because Oprah
And
said like that finally went away for her because she grew up dirt poor as well.
oh yeah, Oprah's a billionaire too,
But
right?
Oprah said, like, do you, she said, I mean, it was a great conversation because Oprah said, do you know? She's like, do you remember? Did you have that moment where I realized, oh, I never have to worry about money anymore in my life? And J.K. Rowling said, never, never, never. And Oprah was shocked by that. But I also, so conversely, to prove your point even more, I had a friend who was telling me about an interview, and I ended up watching it later, where somebody was interviewing Oprah, and they said, you know, what is the one thing that you still feel like you're working on that you just want to achieve? And this is Oprah.
Right,
Oprah.
right. Oprah
Okay.
is like the goddess of talk
And
show.
yeah, and she said, if I could just get control of my weight and my physical fitness, she's like, I just wish I didn't have to battle that. I want to beat that battle because she's got the wealth and the relationships. But again, it's like we all
Yeah,
have that like weak spot. So it's beautiful when you see two people like that that still think this way because it makes you think, okay, I'm not crazy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, um, I my whole goal with wealth is to get to that point. Now, I'm not saying you have to make $1 billion, but to get to that point where you don't have to worry about any bills for the rest of your life
Yeah.
and you got your kids all set. To me, that's what I try to work towards. And I feel a lot of people to me, money isn't how much you make. Money just buys you freedom.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, at least.
Gives
So
you
it buys you,
options.
and I hate having to pay bills on a house, for example. It sucks. It
Mm-hmm.
sucks for everyone who has to pay bills for a house. So wouldn't it be
Mm-hmm.
great if you never had to worry about that again? So that's what motivates my wealth aspect. And the relationships aspect, I feel I'm pretty well rounded there. The only aspect I feel like I could do a better job at is probably spend more quality time with Lily, my daughter, and Jen, my wife, because sometimes I work on the health too much or I work on the wealth too much, and that takes time away from the relationships column. And then it's this really interesting thing. So I try to look at it like, okay, well, you can't master it all in one day. So the best thing you can do is try to find a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when I try to put balance on relationships and spend more time with them, I feel this constant need to, oh, I need to go out there and work out. I didn't get my workout in for the day, or crap, there's someone out there working just as hard as me that's going to get a one leg up on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this constant battle of trying to balance the three, but it's like a video game. It wouldn't be fun to balance it if it was easy, if you had the cheat codes to it. It's only like a accomplishment because it's so difficult. So it's a simple concept, but I find it's one of the most complex to actually implement. So yeah, that would be the piece of advice I'd go back and tell myself.
I love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Two more. So chatty Matty number 4, what day would be your Groundhog Day? So what day was so awesome? You're like, I would live that day every day.
Yeah, so you sent me the questions before, and I thought about this, but I honestly couldn't think of anything. I'm not even kidding you. You said this, and I was like, Groundhog Day, and then I realized, oh, the movie, and for the longest time, I was just like, God, that was such a good movie. So every time I would think about like what day I would pick, all I would think is, man, that movie was so good. And then I was like, I should watch that movie again. But I was like, no, I shouldn't watch the movie again. I need to focus. So I was thinking a lot about this, but I couldn't come up with a prepared answer. So I didn't even know what I was going to say.
That's funny.
So I would have to say the day I would pick, man.
Well, I used to ask that question, what's the weirdest place you've had sex? But some people get embarrassed by that. So I changed it to this one. So you're lucky.
Weirdest place. No, I'll tell you the weirdest place. Weirdest place is probably a car wash.
Oh, really?
Really? Yeah.
Like while
car
I was
wash.
doing the car wash thing?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's one of the best answers I've ever heard. You don't even have to answer the groundhog now if you don't want to.
No, I want to answer the
Oh,
groundhog.
geez. That's awesome.
Yeah, so the Groundhog Day, great movie. And then all I get, so literally the thought process I'm having here is, oh, that Groundhog Day, that was such a good movie. I should watch that movie. Oh wait, wasn't that movie with Tom Cruise just like a refurbished version of that movie that, gosh, I can't even think of it now. But it's like a war one. And he lives the same day over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like the same type of concept. It was pretty good, but yeah. So I was like trying to prepare for this particular answer because I couldn't think of anything so like captivating to say, and I'm still stuck. I would probably have to go to borrow onto my other answer. There is a day where I feel like I balanced each aspect. The other day, so each aspect, like the holy trinity, health, wealth, and relationships thing. But the other day that really springs to my mind, I can't even talk. You got me so flustered, man.
I did. I got you flustered.
No, the other day that springs to mind is I took an all-day hike with my dad when I was in college. I think we went into the Guadalupe Mountains between the border of Texas and New Mexico, and we climbed it, and it took the entire day. And whenever I find myself missing my dad because he's still living, so there's no sob story here. But I moved away from him. I'd been with my family all my life. I'm very, very close to my family, and they don't live. So I'm in Florida. They live in Texas, and so whenever I miss my dad a lot, I always think on that hike because we were just talking, we were just kind of shooting the shit. It was like the greatest, one of the days that I always think about often, and I'm always like, man, I want to do that again. And I remember afterwards we were so exhausted from this hike. It took us 8 hours total. It took like an hour to get back into town. We ate at this little hole in the wall restaurant that was made popular by the fact that John Madden, the football announcer, would always, since he had like this fear of flying, he would always come into this town and eat at this one restaurant. And the restaurant gave him his own table. No person that ever came in except John Madden could ever eat at that table. And it was called Chewy's, or I don't even remember what it was called.
Wow.
But so we ate there. We just kind of pigged out, but we had burned so many calories from walking for 8 hours straight that we were just starving. So we went to Dairy Queen after that and ate there. And then it was just one of those really great father-son bonding moments. Something I would love to relive. Now I'm sure that would get boring if I have to live there every single day, but I would love to relive that day again. And then another one that springs to mind, I've got like 5 different Groundhog Days, would probably be the day that I married my wife. And I'm not going to give the cliche answer of, the day my daughter was born, because that was actually miserable.
You know what?
Didn't get any sleep.
Only one person said that the birth. Everybody usually says, I would not say my kids because I was so fucking stressed out.
Yeah, me too. It was so. I remember literally my wife. She got one of those. What do you call it? Where they kind of numb you.
Epidural.
That's it. She got that, and the doctor made me sit down because he said so many fathers had fainted just from seeing it given to their wives or girlfriends or something. And so, I didn't get any sleep that day, and it was stressed out, and I'd never had a kid before, so I didn't know how to handle it. And
it's a lot.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that day. But
No.
yeah, those are some of the best examples I can give you for
No.
my Groundhog Day.
I love it. Well, okay, and this might go in. It all kind of connects. But last question. This should be easy. When are you most inspired?
When my back is against the wall. So I find I'm most inspired when I have a lot to lose and I absolutely have to have success at something. So I mean, I could give the cliche answer like, oh yeah, when I listen to like a really cool beat up song or something. Beat up song. What is that? It's not even a thing. No, but I would say like back against the wall type situation where I feel my well-being is threatened or my family's well-being is threatened and financial well-being, so to speak. I find that's what inspires me the most, and yeah, that's probably my answer.
I love
I'm
that.
curious, what are your answers to these questions?
Oh my gosh. It's been a while since
Ever had a
somebody
guest ask you that?
like a few of them, not somebody to ask me all of them.
I want to, you made me do all. It's your turn.
Oh fuck, I got a host on my show. He's hosting me. Most memorable childhood smell. Probably you know, I would say that I've got, I think we all have several. The reason why I asked that question is because smell is our strongest sense memory, actually. So, for me, I would probably say, I love the smell of diesel because going back to comic books, my dad's plumbing contractor and built houses and stuff, housing contractor. And he had a blue tractor. And it was this long kind of almost like, it was old tractor, beat up, needed a paint job, but I love the color and I always would pretend it was the Batmobile. So
yeah, that's great.
So when I smell diesel, I immediately think I need to be like riding a Batmobile in the backyard of my house. So I don't think I've ever talked about that smell. So that smell, nobody's asked me name of our memoir. What would be the name of my...
Yours has to be interesting.
No, I
Just
never actually.
Personality, you're so like out.
No,
it has to be good, man.
I think that now that you asked me, I'm like, oh wow, I've never actually thought about this. Man, these are hard questions. Name of my memoir. I should probably think of something that clever.
So the name of your memoir is
the first thing that comes to my mind is Life Is Not That Serious, which isn't probably the most.
No,
that
I
would
like
be
it.
Life Is Not That Serious.
It fits with your personality.
It probably would be like, it's not that bad or it's not that serious. That's probably what it would be. Something maybe like that. I've never thought about that. Best piece of advice. Best piece of advice I wish I'd taken, I think, would be more of work through your fear. Meaning, and for me, fear and doubt were so much tied to who I am and being afraid of messing up and making choices. And it goes back all the way to, or maybe actually more when I say work through your fear, more don't listen to the voice of doubt. Like, go with your gut of what you initially wanted to do. Because it goes back to just, knowing I shouldn't have been a music major in college, but continuing it. Because I was like, well, I'm 4 years in on this thing, even though I knew I didn't want to do that. Knowing some friendships I needed probably to let go of earlier that I didn't. But literally all the way back of like my Aunt Peggy up the street from us, she had a go-kart. And I knew she wanted to get rid of the go-kart. And I wanted that go-kart.
You wanted that go-kart so bad.
I wanted it so bad. And this is my aunt who loved me, who I didn't tell my parents I wanted, because I was so scared that my parents would say no, so I didn't ask. So I finally told my mom and said, Mama, I would like to get that go-kart. But after she'd been looking for somebody for like a month to take it. And Mom said, well, baby, walk up the street and ask her and talk to her. So I walked up the street, and literally as I'm walking up the street and I see Aunt Peggy's house, this other kid who's also, his name was Matt, I see him drive it away. And his dad drive his car. They had just bought it. And so that to me goes.
That made it worse too.
It did.
Because you actually physically saw him go off with it.
Yes, and my aunt saw me, and I was crying. She was, because I was young. I was like in 4th grade or something. She's like, "What's wrong, baby?" And I told her, and she said, "Well, honey, I just would have given it to you if you had asked me." And so it was just such a good lesson about speak up for yourself, like go with your gut, don't be scared of no. Don't be scared of no.
That's good advice. I like it.
Yeah.
Great stories always make things so much better, don't they?
They-
Like when you tell a story,
They really do. Have you ever? Well, I'll talk to you this after because people have heard it. But remind me, I'm gonna talk to you about public narrative once I stop recording. So what day would be my Groundhog Day? I think
Today would be your Groundhog Day.
You know what? I actually just hosted a podcast. It wasn't a great podcast, honestly. I through a friend of a friend. It just is like it wasn't the most proud that I've done, but I aired it anyway. And but it was the first time I asked the guy. I said, "Well, this guest is like literally looking at it's 2 of them." One of them, he's literally looking at his phone during the entire show. Like during one of the episodes, he actually said, "Dude, he's like, I'm bored." Like it was not a great experience. It was not.
Really?
Yes.
That's so rude.
It was very rude. But for this answer, I asked, "What day would your Groundhog Day?" And he said, "Man," he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I can't pick a day because you should wake up every day and try to make it be your Groundhog Day." And I was like,
I like that answer, though.
I was like, all right, you kind of redeemed yourself because that's a really fucking good answer. Like, it's made me even think of, like, I don't even know if I'm going to ask that question anymore because I kind of think, like, every day should be your Groundhog Day. Like, come on, fucking live it. So that's my answer to that. You know what? It probably would be one of my favorite days ever was my youngest nephew, our oldest nephew, who is now 18. He went through this stage like when he was 3. I just kind of jokingly said, like, I would look at him and say, "Who do you love, Dylan?" And he would go, "Uncle Matt." And so then everybody would ask him, "Who do you love?" And he would always say, "Uncle Matt." And we were at a family party, and just that whole day of him just saying my name, that he loved me the most, was one of the best days of my life.
I love it.
Anyway, when am I most inspired? I'm going to answer this question differently because a lot of people talk about, and maybe you can add to this too, but a lot of people talk about, I can tell, when I talk to people like this, I'm totally jazzed right now. Like my boyfriend, after he's going to be like, "You need to have a beer and calm down," because I'm going to be like, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to be jazzed. But the time of day, I actually get the most inspired in the afternoon when it's the golden hour, when the sun is starting to like about an hour before the sunset. It's like really long rays on like the living room floor. That's often when I try to, if I'm free, that's when I try to like meditate or just sit or like I knit. That's when I often will try to knit because that's when I have really great ideas. That's when I have ideas of like, that I probably need to write on that fucking board like you have. Like that's, so for me, that's when I'm most inspired is like usually around like between like 3 and 5 o'clock. That's like good times for me.
Well, between 3 and 5 there is like pitch black here. So.
Well, yeah. And in daylight savings, then it moves up to like 6. I don't know. Is there a time of day where you realize you kind of get most of your ideas?
I would definitely have to say the weekends, actually.
Oh, yeah.
The weekends is when I get most of my ideas. And it's also like I'm pretty strict with my schedule. And I try to make the weekends all about my family, so I spend a lot of time with them. I'm not above working. If it's something like urgent has to happen, then I'll obviously step out. But most of the time I'm spending with them. And that's also most of the time when I'm reading blogs and listening to podcasts and just getting ideas from other people. And sometimes they inspire me, especially when I feel like I said I have my back against the wall. And it almost gets worse too because it's the weekend and I'm not sort of allowed to work so much. And so it just sits there and eats at me. And I'm like, I have to do that. And so by the time Monday happens, bam, I am ready to hit the ground running on the idea. So that would be kind of how my mind works a little bit. And I've gotten inspired. For example, let's say I read something that inspires me a lot on Saturday, and then I kind of sit and think about it a little bit throughout Sunday, and then I realize, no, it's not going to be a good fit for me. So I find it's kind of like this interesting gauntlet that it goes through before it actually hits the work day on Monday, and Monday through Friday are pretty long work days for me. But yeah, I don't really have a time of day. I'm real late at night. I'm mostly watching TV or watching TV shows or obviously sleeping. But I try not to think about work too much because I can let myself go insane literally if I do think about it too much. But that's how I work.
Well, that's awesome that you're passionate about it. So that's beautiful. And speaking of beautiful, that's it. That's the show, Sugar. We're done. We're so I mean this. I love you. Like, I seriously love you. I love talking to you. I could do this every week. It
was fun. I have to admit, it's probably the funnest I've ever had on an interview.
Oh,
before.
good.
I almost want to steal your idea of having the guest answer questions. I love it. It's so much fun to get the different take on things, specifically different situations. It's genius. I think it would be. It's that idea. I think I may try with the next, although it might not go so well if I get one of those stuffy psychologists on there that are like, no, do it this way.
No, yeah, so. It depends on where you go. I mean, again, it's learning how to vet your guest a little bit. So
yeah.
Although vet, please, people just say yes, and I'm like, okay, using fun. But okay, so tell everybody again. So exboyfriendrecovery.com. exgirlfriendrecovery.com. Where can they find you? And I think I saw like on your website you have a quiz, right? If people
Yeah, it's an interesting quiz because one of the most asked questions I get, especially on ex-boyfriend recovery and ex-girlfriend recovery, is what kind of chance do I have of getting my ex back? So I figured the smartest way to do it in a mass type situation, because I can't, obviously there's some unique aspects to everyone's situation, but the kind of for the masses is to put together this quiz that can kind of give you a general direction, and it'll give you, and then after you sign up for the quiz, you get 2 weeks basically free email coaching from me, where I send you an email every single day.
That's cool.
And yeah, that's the websites for you. www.exboyfriendrecovery.com and www.exgirlfriendrecovery.com.
Writing them down, so I remember to put them in the show. I do the entertainment stuff. You think of the smart business stuff too. I'm working on that. I'm trying. Well, this was great. So for the rest of you, I'll talk to you in a second in the outro when I record that. But for the rest of you, do something for someone this week. And thank you, Chris Seitzer. Sider. I always say your name wrong. Chris Sider. Thank you so much. Like, you're just, and this is going to be on the YouTube. So I'm telling you, Chris is really hot, you guys, and he plays tennis, and he's really thoughtful. So watch the YouTube video. And
I'm the oh God, have you ever had that moment where you blank?
Yeah,
I just had that
you.
moment.
Yeah, just embarrassed. Oh, and I'll be sure to put. I'm gonna write this down too. I'll put a link to. You obviously go to ex-boyfriend, but if you're listening to this on the YouTube, I will have a subscribe button down below for your channel as well. Actually, I just subscribed today.
Sweet. So you're number 3,007. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's me. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
This was a blast. Thanks.
Bye.